Now that we've got our piece built, we need to go in and start applying some materials to it. Okay, so to apply materials, you're going to go up here to modify, and you're going to pull down here to appearance. And this is like your material editor. Okay, there'll be a default material in here, which is the default that's in here. Can't really delete that. You can apply materials on a body, or you can actually apply materials on faces also. So on this outside piece, I'm going to go for this to be a plastic. Now what I'm going to do is, this is the logo that Ivan has designed. Nice logo. So I'm going to utilize these colors in the piece itself. So I'm going to start off by using this blue. So I just want to go in here and sample this color. And then all I need is this hexadecimal number right here. You can do RGB and stuff too, but this is the easiest way, so I'm just going to copy this hexadecimal number. So now I have to kind of determine what I want the appearance of this to be, and I'm going to make it like it's a plastic. So we're going to open up plastic, and I'm just going to use this base ABS white plastic. So I'm just going to drag it up here. Now what I usually do is, as soon as I bring it in here, then I'm going to right click and I'm going to duplicate it. Okay, and then I'm going to double click on that, and then I'm going to name this what I'm going to put it on. Okay, so I always leave the base name so I know what template I started with. Okay, so this is going to be my outer rings. And click done. And so then I can pick these. I'm going to hit F5 so I can pick my object. And then I just take this and I drop it on there, and take this one and drop it on here. And then I want to get rid of this one out of here. This is the original, and I'll just hit delete. So I'm always making my own copy what it is. I leave the, double click on it to get to the attributes. I leave the base name so I know what base I started with, and then I give it my own particular name. I name it for what I'm going to put it on. Okay, so like I said, we want it to be this color, okay, and it's this hexadecimal number, so you just copy that. Double click here, go to advanced here, and then all you have to do is you can open this up wider, is just click right here where the color is, and then a color picker will come up, and then you can paste your hexadecimal number. Now you need to leave that number sign in front of it. Click OK, and then it's going to make the plastic that color. Okay. So now this particular has a translucency set to it. Okay, and I don't want translucency, so I'm just going to turn that off. So in other words, I want this to be an opaque type of rubber. Okay, and it's going to default to be more of a translucent, almost have a wax kind of feel to it, like you got some subsurface scattering, and I don't want that. So just apply that, and so that's how easy it is. Now later I can come in here and I can start playing with the roughness and how reflective it is. I'm just going to leave it on the default for right now. It's kind of like I'm just blocking in color. Okay, now I'm thinking I want this base piece to be like a metal, like it was made out of metal, and it's got some kind of plastic rubber padding on it, like if you drop it. Okay, so I'm going to go in here to metal. Okay, oop, not mirror, metal. Okay, and I like to start a lot with copper. And I used to use a polished copper. Now, I start with this because then I can adjust it how rough it is after that. So I'm just going to drag that in here. And I'm going to do the same thing. I'm going to duplicate it. Double click on this one, and this is going to be my base metal. Okay, and then I'm going to drag and put that on my base. And then I'm going to get rid of this one. Okay, now I don't want it to be, I'm going to double click on this, and I don't want it to be the color that it is. So I'm going to do the same thing. I'm going to go over here to Photoshop, and I'm going to sample the purple on its other, and I'm going to make this a purple piece of metal. So I'm going to copy that hexadecimal number, and I'm going to paste it in. And then that's going to apply purple to that. Okay, so now in my, I've got some metal in here, and I want to make this like a stainless steel. So I'm going to use a polished stainless steel. I'm going to duplicate that, and I'm going to edit that, and this is going to be for the USB. And then I'm going to delete that one. Okay, so I'm going to put this on the USB. I think I'm also going to put it on these buttons. So I'm going to put it on and I think I'll put it on these two. And let's see, on my base, I'm going to put it on this rim. I'm going to put this this plastic on that rim too, like that's made out, like that's a padded also. So it's almost like this is being kind of a shield, that if we drop it, you have this, and then that will bounce everything to keep maybe from smashing and all this other. Okay, and now I have a piece of glass in here. Okay, so we need some glass material. And I'm just going to do smooth glass, and I just want it to be clear. So I'll drop this in here, same thing, duplicate it, double click. And this is the lens. And I can get rid of this one. And then apply this to the lens. Okay. Okay, I also have a little piece in here which is white. So I just want a white plastic for that. So plastic, we just use this ASB white. Duplicate that, double click, and this is going to be USB inset. Now I'm not worrying about all the attributes of these yet, because I can tweak all of that later, so I'm just leaving everything on its default values. Okay, so here's what we got so far. So let's just take it and let's go see what this looks like. So we're going to go over here to our render setting. And I don't need this down here. Now, I want to do a setup. So for my setup, you can come in here and adjust your focal length. That's how much you want it to be. You know, the bigger the focal length, the more flatter it's going to be. The lower the focal length, the more it's going to seem in perspective. So you have to find something. Human eyesight is about 45 to 50 is what human eyesight is. So that's kind of the way we see things. But you don't have to go with that. You just get something that you think works. I think that looks pretty good right there. Now on my environment over here, I'm using, you can use all different kinds of things in here. I'm going to be using, I kind of want some things to reflect into it. So I'm going to use this plaza. Now I don't want the plaza to show up in here. Okay, that's under environment here. So I want solid color, so it's just a solid background. And then you can determine here the color of the background. It's got a mid gray to start with, and that's fine. Okay, so that's looking pretty good. Now, I've turned reflections on the ground. I want it reflective, but I don't want it too shiny. It can be really shiny. So what I'm doing is I'm adding a little roughness to it. Also, I can change the positioning of the light source. You do that by going to position right here. Click on that. And then you can grab this, and that's rotating the HDRI what the light is coming from a different angle. Okay, so you get something you like. I like a little bit of that sheen coming across there, so I kind of like that. And click that to turn it back off. Okay, down here you can, we definitely want a 16:9. Now if you just do 16:9, then it's going to do the largest render that it can do based on your viewport. You can do custom aspect ratios in here, like I've got a 1280 by 720 set in here. And that's pretty good setup. Now I'm going to come in here and I'm going to frame this a little bit tighter. Get my render as big as possible. And then I can save this view. So if I right click on where it says named view, this is actually making a camera. And I'm just going to call this close up. And that's nice because then I can move around or whatever, and then when I click on that, it'll come back to that. Okay, this is set up. Now we just need to hit our in-canvas render here, and it will start rendering. Now you have settings down here for the quality. It defaults excellent, which is okay for just a test render, but when you want to do final better renders, you want to slide this over. But for right now, this is okay. Okay, that's looking pretty good. I like that. I think it's a little hot. So I'm going to bring my setup, and I have a brightness right here. I'm going to darken this just a little bit. It's a little hot. Then it will, while I have this render on, it'll just keep updating as I change things. Now, to me, the purple is a little shiny. I want that to be a little more anodized look. Okay, so we're going to come in here, go to this, and what we're going to do is turn up our roughness. Now, you can also click this Advanced tab, and then you can get more control. And I'm going to keep kicking that up a little bit. I want it to be less shiny, a little more anodized. You have other things you can do. You can put bump patterns and stuff on things. You can do cutouts. But what I'm doing right now, it's pretty good. Maybe a little bit more. Okay, that's all right. Now I'm thinking it's a little, I want to put a little bit more, so I'm going to make it bright. Let's back up a little bit, not that much, not about there. Okay, that's looking pretty good. I'm liking that. Maybe I want my reflection a little more dominant in there. Okay. Alright, I'm going to pause this while it's rendering. I'm going to slide up here to excellent. I'm just going to pause it so we don't have to wait on this, and then I'll come back as soon as it gets finished. So there's the render, and it's looking pretty good. Okay, so that's getting close enough. I do kind of think, though, that this purple's a little dull, so I'm going to turn the roughness down a little bit so I get a little bit more sheen on it. Because I like that highlights right in there. So I think I like that a little bit better. But I'm going to stop the render. To stop the render, you just click this where it's red. That stops the render. And then I'm going to go back. Of course, I didn't have to stop it, but I just did. I'm going to go back in here. All right, so what I want to do now is put some graphics in here. I want to put a logo on here, and I need to put something on my display in here. So I'm going to turn everything off except for the display. And then what I've already previously done this is what I do is I just come in here and do a screen grab of this. So just a print screen, and I take it over into Photoshop. So like this. Okay, and then I just put me some guides in here. So what I'm trying to do is create the smallest rectangle that the object will fit in. And then what I did was I came in and just grabbed a nice piece of graphics that I could put in here. You could make custom graphics, which is probably what I would do for a client or whatever. But for right now, for this demonstration purposes, I just went out and grabbed a piece of graphics that I thought would fit in here. And then I put a mask on this just so I could, see. So I could see how I'm putting this in here. Okay, so once I got it. Now, really at this point, once you've done this, then you can just disable the layer mask, and then you can just grab this portion, copy it, and paste it. Okay, so I'm just going to copy this, make a new file, and paste it, and then I can just save this out. Okay, now I'm going to save it as a PNG file. Okay, so now I've got it here. So right up here, I can go insert a decal. Now, canvas is what we put for things to be put in the background that we trace. A decal is something we put on things. So I just go to my computer here. I pick it, pick the object, and then it's going to lay it on there. Now, it's not going to be, to scale, so we need to scale it up. So I want to scale it where it can... And then I can reposition it however I want to position it on there. And there we go. So there's the graphics that we're going to have on our lens. Okay, you'll have the glass over the top of it, and of course you'll have the display around it, so it's going to look something like that. Okay, let's put one on the base. And what I've done here is run over, and let's see, where am I at? Okay, so here's his logo. Then what I did is I just want to put this graphic, this little ligature design he's got with the S and the I on it. So I've cut it out. What I did was I went over here and put a mask on this, so it's transparent. We want a transparent background so that it floats. So I can do a solid background if I want a solid background, but in my case I want to float the logo just over the top, so I need a transparent background. And then I just wanted the S, so I manipulated it, and then I just select that and copy it, and here, and then I just save that as a PNG. And then if I save it as a PNG, then it'll have a transparent background. Okay, so then I'm going to do the same thing here. Now I'm going to go to the top, and I'm going to go insert a decal from my computer. Here's the logo, and I'm going to select that face for it to go on. And so I'm going to scale it down, move it around so it fits right in there. And I'm going to click OK. So that's where I'm going to want OK. That looks good. So let's turn everything back on. That looks pretty good. So let's go back over to our render, go back to the same setting, and now let's do a new render. Okay, and I'm gonna pause it while it's rendering, and I'll come back to you in a few minutes. Actually, before I do that, I don't like how this is shining right here, so I'm going to rotate this up a little bit so I get a little bit more of the graphic in there. And zoom back a little bit. I think I might adjust. Yeah, I want to adjust the rotation a little bit. Get some little interesting I like the light coming from over on the right. I think I like that sheen there. So I'm going to go with that. Okay, I'm going to pause while it's rendering. Okay, so I've already rendered it out, so I'm going to go over here and show you in Photoshop. So, matter of fact, before we do that, while it's rendering, don't stop the rendering, but while it's rendering, you hit this capture image, click OK, and then you save it to your computer. Okay, so save to computer, save it. But make sure you don't stop the render, because if you stop the render, you lose the render. Okay, and I see people doing that all the time because they think the render has to be stopped in order for it to save it. No, you want the render in action when you export it out. Okay, and then I came in here in Photoshop and I opened it up. I cropped it a little bit, had some extra out here, and then there's the render. Now I let it render for about 15 minutes so that it got a really good render on it. And then there's my final piece. And I could have done other things, you know. You could, like, I maybe could have come in and inset in here on these faces inside of here, maybe put a red in there where it's easy to see it. It could do things like that. I'm still not quite sure what these were. I'll have to get the artist and say, okay, were these lights? Well, I don't know what these are, so I'm not sure. So there's the final render, and there you go. That's the complete process of modeling an MP3 player in Fusion 360, putting materials on it and adjusting them, putting some decals on it, And then I probably, and I don't show it in this one, but I probably would have came back on the back of this and put the whole logo on the back side of this, which I would do in a separate render. Okay, so hopefully that kind of helped you. That's the whole process from the beginning, from the piece of concept art, very nice concept art that the student came up with, and then building it. You have to kind of interpret it as you go. Very important thing that you put fillets on everything, so we get these nice highlights and everything on the edges. That's one of the things I see a lot of people do. They don't understand that you want a filleted edge so that light hits that edge. I call it a manufactured edge, because if you cut everything just really sharp, then you don't get those and it looks kind of digital. Okay. All right. Hopefully that helped you. Thank you for sharing your time with me.